Yeah. And I'm Adrian.
This is you.
Yeah.
Varsity moments, and stuff like.
Wow, is the owl weird or
Forgot about that.
is that me? Yeah,
I
that's me.
just saw Alex Anderson, biking 2 days ago, actually, right outside, on the top. And regularly,
Oh my God.
and regularly running through. I see him sometimes. I'll be doing cargo boats.
So I'm projecting. So then should you do the Zoom? I'm like confused.
No, I've got.
Looks like somebody has the back.
Oh, okay. Um,
I like that.
For devices,
Outside,
owl,
but here, in like the area, so.
Okay,
Local.
make it look like.
Right.
do I need to elevate all of you?
But that was huge. Yeah, okay.
Well,
So, yeah.
I'm just like another office building.
Normal office.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's cool. It's like I'm just going to work today, but it was nice to meet some of my teammates that I never met before.
That's right, commuter. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's good to get like on the same.
The goal.
So Ian, I do not need to promote you to panelist because you're here.
I wasn't sure if we
Yeah.
have question Q and A or whatever, I was like, I'll log in. and-
Yeah, yeah.
That is-
The Zoom.
That is so much basil.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I might as well promote all of you.
Most of that.
Moments ago, so that was a highlight.
Yeah.
Of the
You're
day.
gonna like freeze it or something.
I'm gonna freeze it or just
If
feed
the Zoom like,
everyone I know.
Yeah.
yeah.
With pesto, yeah, it's pretty good, so.
Paul gonna show us his math.
That's it, that was big. That's all.
It's not even form.
Do you want a pen? Oh,
Like
that's,
take
I
that.
personally, cats and
I
dogs.
feel like I didn't bring it.
Yeah,
back, so
sure.
Does anyone else want a pen?
to be
So another question is, where the hell do I turn off the?
blur.
Welcome both on the
video.
Zoom. We're about to get started,
Little
just
arrow.
turning out the unexpected background blur.
Ah, we're clear now. Sorry.
Alright.
Not quite. I don't know what the-
AV check, both on the Zoom, can you hear us all right?
Yes.
Cool. And could somebody try speaking and we can see if we can hear you as well?
Can you hear us?
Do I?
Not hear anything yet. We can have,
Okay,
uh,
I can keep chatting.
Speaker. Ow. Echo.
Blind.
Need. Like I don't. Disappear.
Somebody try speaking again.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Great.
That helps. All right, with that, I believe we have one and are ready to get started. Welcome folks, my name is Tom Lamar, I'm chair of the committee. I'm gonna go around and do roll call of the members for community representatives and then ex officios. And as we go around, feel free to also tell us about a bike adventure you're excited about this summer. I'll start us off, again, Tom Lamar, chair, and I'm trying to collect all of the blue bike stops, and so I'm gonna go to Salem sometime soon and get another half dozen that I'm missing there. And like 63% so far, so trying to get all of them.
Wow.
You should have gone last.
Yeah. I'm going to the store.
Bike adventure, any summer things you're excited for in the next month or so. Next up, Lena, roll call and tell us a bike adventure you're excited for.
A bike event,
Sure.
Adventure.
Bike ride, bike
bike
adventure.
adventure.
A bike.
Gosh, I mean, I love my commute to work. It's so long. It feels like an adventure every day. It's 13 miles to Waltham, and then I take the Cambridge Watertown Greenway, which is like it spares me a couple miles and is more safe and actually makes my entire commute all off-road pretty much, except for path crossings, which, you know, as simple as it sounds, can still be quite treacherous. So yeah, I just look forward to my awesome commute. It's an adventure every day.
Thanks, Lena. Ted, Dalton.
Everybody, Ted Feldman, Secretary of the Committee, also a Winter Hill resident, bike moment for the summer. So I guess at some point I want to get back out and bike out to Great Cliff Farm, which has always been one of my favorite local rides. Hang out with the cows. And other than that, after spending a good chunk of June dealing with COVID, I'm just happy to be out and biking.
Whether you're feeling better, Ted. Next up, Adrian Ederle.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Adrienne. I live in Spring Hill. Today was my 5th day riding to work in Waltham. Lena kind of inspired me and telling me that she rides to Waltham. And so I don't go to the office that often. So finally, but getting into a good groove, and it like really makes me excited to be at work. So it's fun, and mostly go on the Lexington, or the Minuteman Trail. Yeah.
Catherine Benesh.
Hey all, obviously present, sorry that I'm there in person. Our whole family has COVID, so I figured I would spare you all and be remote. I would say, similarly every day I'm biking both in the morning and the evening downtown for my kids' daycare. So that's a fun like 16 miles to rack up every day. Typically a pretty nice bike ride. Though I have some feelings about a couple sections that are in Boston they're not in Somerville. And I have been meaning to do the Northern Strand for a very long time. So if anyone has any recommendations about that one, or any places to stop for coffee and such, let me know, since that's been on my bucket list for quite a while. And that's what I got.
Awesome. Thanks for not being here in person today. And one recommendation, the ferry up to Lynn is very cheap for the next few days because of summer tunnel closure. So if you have a chance to take advantage of that in the next few days, that's a fun way to ride the Northern Strand. Next up, Gregory Ely.
Hi, Greg Ely, member of the committee. Our family also just all had COVID and recovered from that. One fun ride that I did this summer was riding with my family and another family from Provincetown to Eastham, and ran into Tom Lamar on the P-Town ferry. That was quite a treat.
Thanks, Gregory. Good to see you then. Alex Freeman. Do not currently see Alex. Next up, Sari Kayali.
Hey everyone. One thing I'm excited about is speaking of the Northern Strand, I heard they broke ground on the extension from the end of that trail to Nahant Beach. So looking forward to riding that in the future.
Awesome. Okay. Next up, Paul Morgan, guest.
Hi, Paul Morgan, committee member. This is my daughter Zoe. I'm organizing a ride on Saturday with the Family Bike Ride organization, highlighting the new protected bike lanes on Huron Avenue in Cambridge, and also riding the Watertown Greenway. Although at this point, we may have to reschedule because of the rain, but hopefully that changes.
Paul. Amanda.
Hello, Amanda Reichel. I rode to Nahant on the Northern Strand with my son's scout troop. They did it without electric bikes. I did it on an electric bike. I'd like to try it again. One thing don't do until it's extended all the way is go to the end of the line because it's a dead end. But there is an interesting stuffed mammal to see there.
Wow.
In a little house. It's strange. I'd like to try it again, without like a whole bunch of people in a smaller group. It was nice. Maybe try it in conjunction with a trip to the beach. I'm saying.
Did you promote Alex Breeden to a panelist? Meanwhile, I do not see Maria or Mark, so next up, Ian.
Ian Willotion, member of the committee, I turned off my camera because I'm sitting in the room. I just was up in Vermont last weekend. My girlfriend had an event in Norwich, so I said to my brother, hey, let's go for a ride, and I don't have to drive. And we did the Bridgewater 8 loop out of Woodstock, and it was about 20 miles of mostly gravel roads and 3,005 feet of elevation. And neither my brother or I really thought about that fact, even though we saw the elevation plot. The only flat section of the ride was from the parking lot through the town of Woodstock, which was maybe a quarter of a mile, so it's a tiny town. And then it was all up or down with no flats. And I didn't know you could be tired riding downhill.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We survived. And then I didn't have to drive home, which was really nice.
Alex Breeden, introduce yourself and tell us about a bike ride or adventure you're excited about this summer.
Yeah, hey everyone, Alex Frieden, Ward 2 resident, member of the committee. Excited for the Pan Mass Challenge, which I'm doing this Saturday.
Awesome. Next up, our ex officios, Councilor Burnley, Viola, and then Greg.
And then me.
Oh, my apologies.
You want to start? I mean,
Okay,
go first.
yeah, I'm Catherine Lang. This is my second committee meeting. I'm a big fan of Northern Strand. I think that's probably my most ridden local path. Recently, I went home to Eastern Connecticut, where I'm from. I live close to a gravel rail trail there, and got to take my bike out briefly and ride to the next town, which growing up, I thought you were in a car. So very, very good like life arc moment going on a bike by myself in Connecticut. Oh, we got a lot. It's sneaky out there. It's a lot of love.
Okay. Viola and Greg.
Sure, Viola Augustine, ex officio, working for the mobility division for the city of Somerville. And I will not be here next month because I will be in Portugal, riding my bike from northern Portugal towards Lisbon.
Woo!
Yes.
Wow.
Have not really done any long rides this summer, but it'll be all good, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Very exciting. Greg.
Greg Hannison, also with the mobility division. I have been recovering from a knee injury, but it's started to get better. So just looking forward to biking again and some more, but no specific trips planned.
Next up, couple meeting logistics. I'll mention I want to do our best to start meetings on time in general and stay on schedule and promptly at 8 p.m. So I'll appreciate everybody's help in that. Feel free to remind me if we need to stay on target, get focused, etc. Also, just an ask to our Zoom to those joining us on Zoom to default the camera on. I know a few of us are joining from the room, so obviously no need for other cameras. Always fine to turn the camera off, step away whenever you have to, but to default the camera being on. Any questions about that? Then one other logistic for several votes, such as approving minutes or endorsing a comment on Tough Street review. Someone's gone back and forth between a voice vote or a roll call vote. I anticipate doing a voice vote, which means we'll just ask for anybody who is in favor, kind of all in unison, etc. We'll cover that when we get to specific votes. Yes.
one other logistic possibility. I know we had a previous tradition of doing something called banter over beer after meeting where anybody interested could formally go out. If anybody's interested in figure out the logistics afterwards, there we go. But probably implementation. Yes. I'm not sure what that's.
It's good. All right, next up, our Assistant Secretary is Ted Billman. Thank you for stepping up.
Is that like, it rotates?
Yeah.
Yes. And another logistic point is we will have to put our wonderful new folks on the list. So yeah, and it's a rotating responsibility. People usually do it just once a, now that there's enough of us, it'll work out to less than once a year.
There's one year I did it like 3 times, it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
It's not that scary or anything. It's basically just try to do like due diligence and best effort of capturing meeting minutes. You make a mistake, everyone's gonna review it, they can correct it, and the next agenda item is voting on the past month's minutes. So everyone has a chance to look at it and be like, I said this thing that wasn't quite captured, but usually it's not.
Yeah, and usually the procedure with the minutes is I typically take them by adding information to the agenda. After you're done with the minutes, you should all be given access to our Box account and upload them to Box. Usually in the agenda, there's a minutes folder, there's a draft in there. This way we can make it available for the next month's meeting, look them over and approve them at the next month's meeting.
And it is required by state law, I think is the reason we do this.
Yeah.
Not yet. I will do that immediately. That's a great question.
Yeah, so if you're in person and don't have a computer in front of you, maybe just send Tom the email address associated with your Box account or the one you would like associated with the Box account.
So, yeah, I think invite everybody by email address. All right, any other logistics? Seeing none, next up, we have approval of the May and June meeting minutes. Any corrections, questions, concerns regarding May or June meeting minutes before you move to approve?
It's not typing. I can fix it. It was like bytes instead of miles.
Right, you recall what it was that they changed the.
I think it said bytes, but it should have been miles, maybe?
Okay.
3 miles, 3 bytes.
Instead of smooth, it's Box.
Thanks for catching that. I'll be comfortable making any other concerns? And when you get to it, we get a motion to approve the minutes, including that correction. Okay, hearing none, I motion that we approve the May and June meeting minutes, after approving the typo note by Amanda. We have a seconded by Ian. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand, otherwise make your vote no. Right, hands down. Any opposed? Okay. By voice vote, the May and June meeting minutes are passed. Thanks, folks. Next up, upcoming outreach events. Does anyone have any events coming up in the next month or so that folks should be aware of? Public meetings, any ongoing outreach that folks should use, help organizing, anything like that?
When is Fluff Fest? And that just arrived on my radar.
I think it's September. Yeah, I just saw something about it.
Did we outreach there last year?
Not last year, and to be honest, our outreach has been a little lacking the last, or a little sparse the last year or so. Viola, do you know if there are tabling opportunities?
I don't.
Fluff Fest?
But we'll check.
I like this iteration.
think the most proximate one was the Halloween summer students that we did outreach. on.
I mean,
Collected in its own. I didn't move them.
Right, not doing anything else at the moment. Feel free to drop it in the Zoom chat or bring it up later if anything comes up. All right, as we get into our focuses, quick question, do we need to take anything out of order, any preference on the order we go through these in? Seeing none, we'll go through as listed. So first up, Tough Street. Ted, would you be up for giving a little initial background on Tough Street?
Sure.
I can share my screen with the city's latest plans.
Yeah,
And so just logistically, will Ted give us a little background on some the committee's feedback and kind of the first round of Tough Street, and some things that that folks highlighted. The committee might want to discuss in this round of feedback. We'll open it up for general discussion. And I'll do my best to capture the themes of our feedback as we go. And then we'll vote to endorse that high level comment of the city.
right. So I'll read this from a Drive document, but I think we started looking at Tough Street last November. The initial design, I think that we looked at, or the initial concept was a meandering 12-foot wide street to provide two-way traffic, along with raised intersections and crosswalks, and significantly wider sidewalks, given that the lane or the road width is being pinched down. We, in particular, took a deeper dive, particularly the intersections, notably Washington Street. Because one of the issues there is the fact that it doesn't sort of perfectly align, and particularly sets up kind of an odd geometry, sort of necessitated just by the way the streets are laid out with the crosswalks there, and providing efficient and safe access to the community path at the East Somerville Green Line Extension Station. The goal there was that the initial design provided some pullover space to make it all ages and abilities friendly. Just before a zigzag that would sort of incentivize cyclists to dismount and walk their bikes across. I think we had a number of different concerns. I think there were some questions about the utility of the pullover space, or that sort of being the best approach. There was a brief sidewalk on Washington Street that, while it wasn't too narrow, could sort of be a conflict point if it got crowded with pedestrians. So it set up a bike pedestrian kind of conflict. And then I
sorry,
think
Ted, are you talking about the new design?
I'm talking about the background on
The
it.
background,
So if you
okay, sorry.
prefer, I could just
Mhm.
get into the current concept. I think there were some questions about navigating that with a wider bike, such as a cargo bike. And I think there were some ideas related to seeing if some of the jug handle concepts that are used in Porter Square could be applied to this intersection in particular. So those were our previous comments, and of course there's more public outreach, and I think the design process has certainly evolved in the time since we provided that feedback. I think a lot of what we had to say was definitely actually about the safety of the intersections. When I also think back to our meeting, we had a lot of discussions about that sidewalk across Washington Street. So this is the updated design. So it's generally a 20-foot wide road, which is actually it's a bit narrower, but still passable considering like an average 10-foot wide lane width for a non-bus lane, which is kind of typical, at least in the city, to facilitate two-way traffic with some pinch points, the forced traffic to slow down. They're noted in the diagram. I think we all have a lot of positive feedback about some of the intersection improvements. What I saw in correspondence about the intersections across Dell, Glen, and Wilton and Washington, but I think we all appreciated the particular focus on the two terminal intersections between Washington and Tufts and Cross Street. So if you're, I don't know how familiar everybody is with the layout here, but roughly going up that way on Cross Street, you're going towards Broadway. Down is towards the bridge and towards the ramp onto the community path, Southie, you know all that. And then on the other side is Tufts to Washington Street. So there, it's the flatter and probably more direct access to the GLX East Somerville extension, because if you go, everybody's been on there. So looking at the design, I think we were all had positive things to say. So no, there were more emails from when I looked at this last night. Tom had some points on here, so just pull everything up. So in particular, some things that came to mind on the design is, as I said, we all appreciated the focus on the terminal intersections and the addition of the widened sidewalk there in direct response to concerns about conflicts between bikes and pedestrians going towards that crosswalk and towards the cross bike there. So
Is that on widened sidewalk all the way across the bridge?
The bridge is actually already wider than the sidewalk used to be on
Yeah.
Cross Street.
Okay, I can't picture it.
Yeah, I believe it's 10 feet. So
Okay.
it's about like the same width as the community path.
That sounds about right.
yeah, yes, it's about right. I think the only other concern I had is that basically this going towards Broadway is actually downhill for traffic, so probably a more popular turning movement for cross onto Tufts is actually that left-hand turn, because that's the flatter, more direct approach to the GLX station.
By left-hand turn, you're referring to somebody biking south-ish on Cross.
Yeah.
Street and then turning
I'm never really good at cardinal directions in Somerville, so.
And it's like a really sharp turn.
Yeah,
So because you have this, at that point, if I recall, it's only slightly uphill, so I don't really think there's a huge speed disparity, but it is fairly wide and coming, since the cross bike is in front of the raised crosswalk, I thought maybe something like a flash beacon there, just worried about cars coming down the bridge ramp at higher speed when you have people crossing the street. Was the only concern I had there. And I think we had some points about the Washington Street.
Do you mind if I interfere?
Yeah.
If you go back to Cross Street, we started to have internal reviews, obviously, and questions about, are we really providing a safer crossing for bicyclists? And the green, it's indicating a bicycle lane, which it's not really. It's indicating a crosswalk, which is not really. So the end of our discussion, we actually came to the conclusion, maybe we do not paint it green, because it falsely alludes to bicyclists, oh, this is safe for me to cross, or people have to stop. So we're, I think the bike box, waiting areas, that's really the important thing. But we sort of started to come to the conclusion, maybe not paint that road green. And I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say.
This is not a raised intersection, raised crosswalk.
It's a crosswalk right there and a crosswalk across,
But it's
but
not raised where the cross.
where the green is, it's not raised, yeah.
So, and moving the raised crosswalk to be on the other side of the intersection is out of scope for the project.
It's not only out of scope, but the grades don't allow it. You cannot achieve an ADA access, yeah. Well, it's not so much, it's the road that is too steep.
Yep, that's, yeah.
and there's the driveway. So you have some constraints.
An intersection that's reminding me of that, Sands turn box is, where the community path passes Cameron Ave and Cambridge. That's a road, and that, you've got two-way traffic, the community path goes over, and the road is, I don't think painted green. I guess
not.
that any,
It's a raised crossing.
It's
yeah,
just
I
a
guess
crossing.
all
Like
of
brick.
those, it's like brick, so. I don't know, I mean, people there typically will look both ways, go if it's safe without green paint, and that would probably be true here if you're in a bike box. Habit is usually just sit there and wait until it's your turn. Because still cars have the right of way, right? And then
Yeah.
you are waiting until it is safe to cross.
Yeah.
I would be okay with taking the green out if other people felt good about
Yeah.
that.
If it was a raised crosswalk, I would feel differently, but if it's
Yeah.
not a raised crosswalk, it's to me indicating this is not a space where vulnerable road users have priority. It's a space where people all have to share and not be jerks. And that's a very different
Mhm.
than, you know, maybe I could see putting some of the purple sharrows, I guess we're calling them in. I don't like calling them sharrows, but you know, I could see doing something like that, but that might just be more confusing, so.
Well, it's interesting. We had that discussion too, and
Yeah.
and it is, you know, you don't usually see the traditional share perpendicular to.
Yes.
So
That's
it's
true.
like
That would-
what
that'd be
what
more
is it?
confusing maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it might make people slow down.
Yeah, is there some way you can paint it, just be like, this is a place you should not speed through here? I don't know, like, not drink.
So more like an artistic mural or
Did
something.
you do a neighborway style mural?
Right. For the
Saw
zebra, the zebra's right.
Yes, it's not going to be part of this project.
But
But
could
There's
we propose
nothing
to Mark
that
Chase?
prevents it to be happening afterwards.
Another concern of the green might be that a pedestrian would take
Like-
that and you'd want to encourage them to use the crosswalk instead.
Yeah, I think I agree with the concerns. I think it's a great point. Also, it's not connecting to a bike lane.
That was the other, yeah,
Which
it's
I
like,
think is
it's
the big
word
one.
like, yeah,
Is Tufts though a neighborhood
yeah.
and there's Glen, so it's leading you in.
Yes, it's leading you into a street with bicycle infrastructure, but not a separate bike lane. And
Purple
usually,
infrastructure,
I know.
Usually those are used to lead into.
Let's hear from some folks on the Zoom, about this intersection in general, the green paint specifically. I see hands from Alex and Frieden. Everyone else on Zoom, feel free to raise your hand. If you have a comment.
Oh, for the city staff was, or even for the committee, was a mini roundabout ever considered here?
No. But, well, I shouldn't say no. I think the issue with this intersections are the really challenging grades.
Okay,
So we'd have to like create something that makes the crossing for pedestrian accessible.
The intersection is on grade.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, that was the only idea, I got difference, otherwise, yeah, I like the ideas of the mural over a green, which makes it feel like you have some form of your right to go.
Alina, then Gregory.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the community path as it crosses Mass Ave to turn into Alewife Linear Park at Cedar Street. So that's the one that goes across Mass Ave. And that one does have green paint. And it is like a large diagonal across Mass Ave. It also has separate crosswalk and crosswalk signal time for pedestrians. So the green bicyclists crossing Mass Ave have their own, while the pedestrians have their own and allows for movement of vehicles that way. But that just like, I go through there every morning. I like the green. I think it's extra helpful if you're crossing a large expanse of lanes like you are on Mass Ave. Again, I go through it every morning. There's also signal separation there, which also helps everything, but it is a path crossing. And the green diagonal guide is good.
Quick question, Lena, would you prefer the green even without signalization? Like, does the green only work with signalization, or is it good? even
No,
if-
yes, I think there should be green, there should be, what's it called? There's like a term for it, right? Conflict paint. Conflict zones, a green conflict zone. Yes, I want it green no matter what.
Thanks, Lena. Gregory?
Yeah, I'm a little mixed about the green there, as like it's not going into dedicated bike infrastructure. And I was curious if we could do a speed hump on the opposite side of the bridge as people are sort of approaching that from McGrath, sort of to like cue people to slow down and sort of maybe counteract some of that, like I think people go pretty fast as they're coming off of McGrath because it's a pretty kind of an exit there, and having something that sort of cue people to like slow down, that there's like a crossing coming up, would be helpful there.
It's certainly steeper. It's certainly narrower grade than like Lowell Street where the speed.
A speed hump even on the far side of the bridge would still slow people down. It's not that long of a bridge.
There is a speed hump, I think, on the other side of the bridge.
But I've been over there in a while.
Yeah. And one of the reasons we had not shown it initially is because of the grades, but we have, if anybody's familiar on Vinyl Street, we've put speed humps, and we particularly had all of us ride, and feel free to do so too, and see if it, if you feel like it's safe as a bicyclist. And, so far, all of us, I mean, I'm a very careful bicycle rider, especially when it goes downhill, and I feel like that it was okay. So we're all like starting to feel more comfortable to put speed humps on steeper streets, and so that would make it a much better
And
candidate.
here cyclists would potentially have the option to stay on the sidewalk and avoid the speed hump
Yeah.
entirely. So if you're okay riding the street, hopefully you're a little more okay with
Mhm.
a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there wayfinding signage around this intersection?
Not as part of this project, no.
There should be this the bike lane there essentially ends at that curve at the sidewalk.
I think if there's wayfinding signage, specifically coming from the bottom of this picture heading towards the top. Sorry, don't know the cardinal directions it's ripping off. It would help cyclists coming off the path know, like, yes, you have to cross here. The green indicates like this is a crossing, but if you take the green out because it kind of doesn't make sense, it might be a little confusing. I don't know if a sign really helps, but
Well, we used to still have the green box, waiting box or bike box, and
Oh,
like, and
okay.
the arrows,
that
but it,
helps, yes.
we were also like wondering, because you kind of like come from different directions there, if there should be a barrier. And maybe the sign would be a good one to put there in either direction, and that kind of clearly tells you.
And there are also neighborhood signs specifically.
Yes, but I mean, neighborhood signs tell you you're on a neighborhood, but they don't tell you where to go. That's what I assumed the question was about
Yeah,
wayfinding.
something like, an obvious destination here is the Capilano School. But you only really need that sign like the first day of school, and then you know where you're going, so is it really helpful?
Yeah, wayfinding is a whole other project, and those are all the questions that come up, where do you point to? And you include mileage and what mileage?
If we do not put green down and go, so say next spring, one season, and then say, oh my gosh, cars are speeding, we need to do something. Is that an option to come back and do it? Or is this one of those, like, if you don't do it now, it's gonna be like 20 years till it come back?
Paint is always an option. That is the easiest for us to apply.
Go ahead, Zoom, Kat.
Yeah, no, that's good. I've actually never biked this intersection. I've only ever driven it, so it's thinking of it from that angle. I can't quite tell from the Google Maps, but is the crosswalk that's across Tufts now closer to Circle Street? Sorry, struggling names here. cross streets? Or is it in the same location, but it's just shorter? Because I know driving that sight line is sometimes a little difficult. And I like, my punchline here is I can go either way in the green, I understand both sides, but I do agree with the commentary that basically there needs to be some sort of highlighting that this is a conflict zone to both drivers and cyclists to proceed with caution. Is the crosswalk in the same place, or is it actually moving closer towards Cross Street?
It's at a different angle, so it's hard to like say, is it closer or not? I do think it is closer. And because you're trying to orient the cars more perpendicular, it's a little
Yeah.
better sight line,
It's a little shorter, right?
but it's definitely shorter, yeah.
The squared off intersection is
Yes.
probably the only way I can think to describe it.
Yeah.
Alex, with your hand up again, and I want to wrap this intersection sooner to get to Washington Street as well.
No, sorry, I still take it down.
There was a question from participants. No, I can read it. So Zachary asked, regarding Cross and Tufts intersection, has the team considered a raised intersection instead of a raised crosswalk and repaint in the middle of the intersection?
So the raised intersection, that's the issue. Yes, we have the raised intersection, and that's not possible because of the grades.
The speed bump might be impossible.
Probably just don't, not subject to ADA.
Right.
Yeah, not yet.
And compared to some of the grades where there are street bumps in the city, that's pretty small.
Cool. Alright, so given that, I'm reporting our feedback so far on this as mixed feedback about the green cross bike towards against it. And I prep mobilities for our discussion as well. If they get a vote, that'll be helpful, but hopefully this discussion is enough. With that, we'll move to the Washington Street intersection as an interesting treatment, as well as any feedback from the committee about the kind of intermediate section.
Sure. So I think the feedback that we saw here, again, overall net positive, especially the way bike lane for crossing the street. I think there was some questions about the positioning of the term crosswalk. Push buttons, given where they are, it would probably be difficult to access those from being on a bike. And I think there were questions about whether there should be two separate curb ramps for the pedestrians and the cross bike there, so the pedestrian crossing and the bike crossing.
So Ted, may I just clarify? So where you're pointing, so that is for the pedestrian, and the one below is specifically for the, nope, there's another push button. That is for the bikes.
Oh, so I think
Yeah.
that was more a question of clarification.
Yeah.
That there were two. So-
And then on the other side, there is a separate ramp. But the push button will be, on the right side for pedestrians and on the left for bicyclists who will come from the sidewalk. So we felt like they can be shared.
What if somebody's biking from Union and is in the street with a protected bike lane and then wants to turn left?
Yeah.
If they live in Somerville.
So this area is really outside of the scope of this project. What you're seeing, the crosswalk and the red paint is an MBTA project, and they will create this whole design. So I'm just saying that we will have to work with them, and probably like if you come from Union Square and you're under the bridge, you can see that there's a driveway right before you hit, kind of right there. So that is probably where bicyclists go on and then turn left. Then that's very much like the Porter Square.
Can we get paint put on that or signage?
That is probably something we'll have to do afterwards. Yeah.
I did that for a year when my son was at Capilano. I was called, this is the only safe way to do it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't clear if I'm supposed to, if I'm
Mhm.
allowed to, I just didn't.
Yeah.
Actually, that brings up one other quick question about the push buttons for the crosswalk. The, well, really, all of them look like they might be difficult for a cargo, front load cargo bike to reach. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect the children to always be able to take the button for you. I don't know if there's a formal definition of bike sizes or turning radiuses or anything like that. This may not be, there may not be room to do anything about it, but I think there are enough cargo bikes of all types in Somerville that it is worth big picture trying to figure out if we need to specify what needs to happen for bag buttons. If this could be created, you know, the Lake Street crossing in Arlington where you just bike up and it says wait for green, great, problem solved. I'm gonna shut up and go away. But as long as you have to manually push a button, I'm going to continue to fight on this. Sorry.
Well, we had some discussion about automatically triggered or buttons with eyes. I would imagine you looked into those, or were there issues with?
We mentioned it, as I said, this is we've been waiting for this for a long time, and we've pushed the design as far as we could with the
Yeah.
MBTA. So right now, I don't think there's any more time for changes. They hoping to start in September to construct it.
Oh, to be clear, I'm not necessarily saying changes for this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like we're learning from this one already.
Exactly.
What can we do better next?
No, I think that those are all great things to consider for future designs, absolutely.
The design guy.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity, not necessarily with this project, but just thinking about the slightly larger area, the crosswalk on the other side of the bridge to get to the community path is just like a really relatively narrow pedestrian crosswalk. It's not clear that you would bike up it to get onto the community path, the other side of the bridge.
On Washington?
On Washington.
If you're
by
coming
Joyce.
from Union.
So you're talking all the way at McGrath?
No, no,
Like the intro, like the side road.
Joyce Street. and-
Joyce Street,
Oh,
okay.
that
Washington. Potentially, there is some wayfinding or putting in a larger curb ramp there or something where you're directing cyclists up onto the sidewalk. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know-
I agree with you.
Necessarily the best thing to do, but that one has always been a bit of a weird one to me. I think you could turn this cross bike on the other side of the bridge into a more natural flow if you got cyclists up onto the sidewalk before going down and up. So something to think about. A very large judgment in New Jersey.
Gas moped coming on that ramp the other day when it was one.
Back to Zoom on either Masari and then Cap. And then you feel more confident about consolidate both.
Good.
I was actually just about to say the same thing, so I can. Yeah, wave over my head.
So make sure I'm capturing that. Is it generally focusing on that intersection at Washington and Joy, or is it more specifically encouraging people to do the giant jug handle?
I think there is critiques to be had about the design presented at Tufts Street that can be mitigated by thinking outside of the project scope. And I understand that might not happen in September, but maybe in the spring or next summer, a small project could be done to really enhance what we're talking about today.
I mean, I was gonna say even some green paint on that sidewalk since it's pretty wide to indicate that it's a way to get to the path. And just like, yeah, guide cyclists along it, because I think that's really the best way to get to the path if you're coming my cardinal direction south, but down Washington Street. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is outside the scope of this project, to be clear, but just thinking of ways to enhance.
Yeah,
With
I
what is.
just want to caution, this is a shared sidewalk. It's not a bike lane. We're not going to paint bike lanes on it. It's not
But-
wide enough to like,
but,
unless I
it's the
misunderstood.
Same width, it's wider than the community path though.
Yeah, there's no green paint on the community path. Yeah. Just as, you know, like the you know, if there's enough room and if we want to have separate bike lanes, that's one other thing, but right now it's designed to be shared. And there's no real,
Is the official rule, if you're coming from Washington from Union to get onto the ramp, to walk your bike on that moment of sidewalk? Is that the official?
I've
that's a
never
good
done
question. So the,
Yeah,
yeah. So the sidewalk between the community path and the Tufts intersection, the crosswalk was supposed to be, you know, as part of the Green Line project, a shared path, and they actually had put the bike symbols on it, and there should be signage. We then did discuss like, well, if people come from Union Square, and I thought there is a sign that says bicyclists, you know, to the station. So that part was not officially part of the shared, but basically we treated it like that.
Yeah.
So,
Google
Like-
shows it as such.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so what official is here? It's like,
Yeah, sure.
it's like, yeah, no, but I mean, all of us will do it as a bicyclist.
For sure.
I do think, given that the Somerville police taking some rules overly literally recently, suggest that we should make sure that we get all the details right.
Yes.
Right, back to Zoom, let's hear from Kat and Alex.
Yeah, real quick, I think ask a slightly different question about Washington Street, if that's okay. And I know I hear that this is the T project, but on the floating bus stop, recognizing the conflict zone, do you know if there's gonna be a fence on the back of that preventing pedestrian biker conflict?
Yes, there's a railing.
Fantastic.
Alex?
Is Tough Street considered a yield street, or is this just
No,
local road?
Thanks for that question, Alex. So the meandering yield street that was proposed in October, because we heard concerns about how that would function, and we had the demonstration project with the fire department, they were really the driving factor for us to switch back to a regular two-way, which is why, you know, most of Tough Street is 20 feet wide, a regular two-way, and the traffic calming, as the diagrams show, are achieved by some of the pinch points, which are 12 feet in width. So it's like these mini yield street conditions, but enough room on the rest of the road for cars to wait and, you know, for emergency vehicles to go through.
Where the multi-purpose parking is, that creates another pinch point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Overall, the Washington Street connection is a huge improvement to what's currently there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Agree.
As usual, the problem is you've done a really good job, so now you have to nitpick and it sounds.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
totally, I think we will all appreciate that.
I think Alex covered the yield street question, which was the other overall one, and I think the last one was the wider conceptual drawing of the plan should have mentioned the gateways at the ends, but I didn't actually see them in
So the gateways for two-way, neighbor way are interesting. They will mostly be branding at this point, so there will be signs for the neighbor ways. And I don't know if I'm making a little pitch, so Glen Street and Otis Street will become neighbor ways. You will also you already see the striping for it, and tonight will be the yellow marking, so the striping on the street should be finished. The paint is gonna come later, and then these purple things that you see here are what our branding color suggested for neighbor ways is, and you'll see these symbols on the street, but you also see a new neighbor way sign that is purple. And so that will be added to the entrances at Cross Street and at Washington.
Can you explain just neighbor ways?
So that's kind of our residential bicycle infrastructure where we're trying to design so that volumes of cars and speed of cars are low enough that you feel comfortable riding on the middle of the road. So those are the residential, low speed, low volume alternatives to the higher speed roads. So on the higher speed roads, we will put protected bike lanes, but in these neighbor ways, we don't have enough space. But also the idea is that you should comfortably ride with the cars.
Yeah.
And we're trying to design it that every indication to the car is that pedestrians and bicyclists have priority here.
Are we not calling them sharrows? Is that the same thing or something different?
We're not calling them sharrows. It's really like a neighbor way branding sign, and we're sort of like using the sharrow because people understand.
Okay,
But
so it
it's
is like
really-
technically the sharrow, but then it's,
Yeah, I don't know
Purple
what the
and we're
MU,
calling it
because the
sharrows.
MUTCD sign is like green, so I don't think it's an official sharrow sign. But yeah, so we're borrowing a little bit from that. And this is the first time that we're using it, so we're all like, kind of, does it work? Do the colors work? And it's kind of a nice thing that Glen and Otis will be like a quick build neighbor way project, and Tufts will be a permanent one, so we can kind of figure that out. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, and I think as a follow-up, the actual sharrows. And the super sharrows, like as soon as you use that word, there's like an engineering standard for what that.
Mhm.
What that has to look like and how big it has to be.
Also, this one has a woman bike rider, so if you zoom into that, you can see that it looks quite different than the regular.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably not the highlight.
All right, love hearing that. Can't quite see zoomed in, but look forward to seeing that on the
Yeah.
screen. With that, I'm going to share what I've heard so far. We're a couple minutes behind schedule, so we'll briefly take public comment on this, then we'll move to vote to endorse the statement we have so far, and let me know if there are any corrections that should be made. With that, I'll open it up to public comment. Please raise your hand if you'd like to public comment, and I'll ask folks to keep it pretty concise. That, can you unmute? Any guess with the hand raised?
Yes. She says, she says she can. Okay, so Chris, you should be unmuted now.
Hi, sorry, I am joining late and don't know where I am. Were we talking about my conversation with Ian the other day?
No, this is about the Tufts Street.
Okay, then never mind. I have no comments. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for coming by. Okay, I do not see anything else at this time, so we'll conclude this public comment. With that, any speaks from community members before you take this to a vote? Anything, everything, but I hope I have captured the major themes. Overall, we appreciate that folks on intersections sign. We appreciate follow-up projects around wayfinding area with the intersection of Tuff Street, with crosswalk across Tufts. We have mixed feedback for we're leaning towards being towards not if necessary. Just taking inspiration from the linear park crossing near Cameron, Mass Ave, and Cambridge. The Washington Street, we suggest designating part of the sidewalk as bicycle jug handle, and we're pretty supportive of this intersection overall. Any changes?
Do you want to mention a speed hump suggestion on Tufts?
Yes. Is that on Tufts itself or on?
On the intersection.
Oh, sorry, cross, yeah.
Yes.
Cross.
Anything else?
If you want to be really specific, coming down the bridge, but otherwise, no. I think it's clear that there is crosswalks at the other side of the intersection.
All right, thank you for the suggestions. Hearing nothing further, I motion that the committee endorse the statement regarding Tuff Street design. Do we have a second? Okay, seconded by Ted. I'll do a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand, otherwise make your vote no.
Hi.
All right, hands down, all opposed? Seeing none, The motion is passed. I'll stop sharing my screen. Our next item is goal setting for the committee. Mobility, did you want to kick this off or did I?
Sure. We started to have discussions for a little while now internally within the city, but also with some of the officers and maybe sometimes in the committee. So when the bicycle committee started, it was a very different city and physically, but also city administration. Like our mobility division now, we're 7. And at that point, I think it was 2, maybe even 1. And so the committee had a very different role. It really helped design and point out projects, start projects. We have much more capability in our city now. We have a much stronger engineering division or department, a much stronger mobility division. So some of the things that are still hard, and it's a lot of work for us, is the outreach. And that is kind of what we're hoping to get a lot of your help. It doesn't mean you don't do the technical review like we just did, but that is what the largely reduced committee had not been focused that much or just didn't have the capacity. So I think that's more sort of, yeah, the setting that we wanted to, or the feedback that we wanted to give for this discussion.
Can you give some examples of what you might consider outreach? It's a very broad term.
I don't really, because I want you to like do what you feel like you want to do. And I think we all can, I mean, the outreach is when you do the bike breakfast, it's like being active at sort of the bike month, but it's also, all the outreach events we do. We could use some tabling, like PTAC, the pedestrian and transit committee is very actively tabling and having some promotional material. But it's also, it's like if we have a street design like Tufts, it's like maybe flyering or helping us with just getting the word out. And I just wanted to give an example for the Tufts. We had a pop-up and a neighbor showed up and he was just like handing out, it's like, neighbor, here, look at it. I cannot stand there and say neighbor. I'm just like, hi, I'm the city, it's like, please do it. So that is where it's awesome that you all live in Somerville and you can truthfully say, it's like, we're just like residents and we support this. So these are just examples. I mean, there's like education could be part of it. It's like there's myriads of ways that you can do.
What did Ted say is happening after this?
So
Like beers after bikes?
yeah, so we used to call it banter over beer. So anybody wanted to just
It's like, that could be outreach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And anybody who wanted to, it's welcome to join. It's an
Yeah.
informal thing. So
I mean, the streetwise talks are a great way, and I think they came out of the committee and, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I joined, I think we called them like the 5 E's, or there were 5 different like sub teams, just like what we kind of went through for the engineering and evaluation. There was an education and outreach sub team who would also present at part of the meeting with ideas. So things like the bike breakfast, like what we're doing right now, usually in the warmer months at Whole Foods on Beacon Street. There's one idea where, people come for an hour and have a light breakfast and talk problem spots and things where they wanted to see improved. In Somerville, we've done, flyering or handing informational pamphlets out to neighbors. What else is, yeah, the streetwise talks grew out of that. When like, to borrow some playbooks from other committees, like PTAC does walks of, upcoming city projects, or here's how we're gonna make this better, or here's what the problem is. That might be also like getting cyclists together, or even engineering staff, or, members of the council to go out for a bike ride and, we've told you that this is a problem spot, come experience it for yourself.
With that, I'd love to hear from folks, maybe hearing people on the Zoom, want to get some ideation now and then we can follow up with some logistics as it comes to this. Let's hear from Maria and then Kat.
Hi, sorry I'm not there today, and my internet shut off at some point, but yeah, I'm really excited about the community engagement part of this. This is one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to join this group, and I was just curious if there was a schedule, like a shared schedule with like a spreadsheet or something with all of the recurring things that happen, like the bike breakfast during summers, and then any of like events that happen at the aeronaut company or something. Yeah.
That is a really good suggestion. I know we've had a Google Calendar in the past that we linked to on our website, but neglects to update. So that I think getting that up to date and getting what out there is a great idea.
I'd be happy to help revamp that if, you know, if that's like something that we have the, what do you say, the legality, not legality, but yeah, if we're allowed to do that, if we're allowed to touch the website, I'd be happy to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And also for context, the bike committee has a website that we maintain. It's somewhat old, but it also gets like pretty good traffic, and that's a source of like people in the community asking questions. We promote some events on there. We have like some general like guidance about biking around Somerville, maps of bike infrastructure that we maintain in addition to the various like city resources.
And we have social media accounts.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah.
or we have an X and an Instagram account.
Yeah, thanks for, I'd love your help with that, and I can follow up with you.
Somerville.
definitely.
I don't think you said the URL.
Right. So once everybody has access to Box, all of our documents, including tabling material, education materials are on there. Our old newsletters, I think some old photos. So give you a sense of what's existed in the past.
Kat.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Maria said. I have zero internet skills. So I would love to help with the website. If it's things like creating Google calendars and getting them up to date, I am there. If you need to do anything with HTML, I am like 20 years too behind. I don't even know if that's what folks use anymore. On a more serious note, that I do think, trying to put structure on this, I agree with Maria as well. Education outreach is one of the main reasons I really wanted to join and help out. And I think part of one of the things in terms of goals that I'd like to put together, and I'm happy to take the lead on this, is almost onboarding for all of us as the new committee members to even understand what we can do, what we can't do, how do we organize, right? I think trying to make sure we don't run up against open meeting law while we try to do organizing for outreach, or maybe there isn't even an issue there. I think there's a lot that I think we'd love to do, but making sure we're working towards a number of specific goals, but also understanding what we can do and what's been done in the past. Something Tom or whoever, happy to follow up with that later, of what exists to start pulling that together. So that we don't have like 10 people all clicking through boxing what was done historically, but hey, here's what we did historically, and then use time in one of our future meetings, say, here's what we've done before, even give a presentation, here's what the pedestrians do, what did that interest us? And I'm happy to pull that together, but we just need some help and guidance. And I think I can also sit down with each one of you. I think we're allowed one-on-one meetings, correct? I forget the numbers, all this I need to relearn.
So it's like half plus one.
Correct, yeah, so some general background, open meeting law says that deliberation cannot happen when it is deliberation between a quorum of members cannot, or majority of members cannot happen when it is not a duly noticed public meeting. And so that can people can avoid that accidentally happening, either by not accidentally being in a big enough group that could happen, or by discussing matters that are not deliberation. So generally speaking, something like our review, a thorough review of Tough Street, and agreeing like, are we in favor of this overall as a committee, etc. It very much is deliberation, and that happens here. the specific logistics of like planning, an event, planning some tabling, etc. Or, is there not deliberation? And so generally speaking, that is fine to happen without, being concerned about open meeting law.
Paul? Good meeting.
I just want to mention one event in the fall that I'm organizing at Assembly Square. They'll be shutting down a couple of streets for us for a bike ride. There's potential tabling opportunity. Generally, there's hundreds of people at our Halloween rides. So there's that. I also, in my mind, have been penciling out a Somerville bicycle committee ride for maybe next year that would highlight infrastructure that's been completed in the first half of this decade. And so if anybody wants to talk to me about that, or if that's something we're interested in doing, I mean, I've spoken a little bit to Era Sure, and she said that there used to be a number of rides pre-COVID, so I'm interested in helping resurrect that if there's value to that.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Much appreciated. Well, I think the bike ride on it, there definitely is interest. Ian has a question, and then after that, Paul, I'd love if you could give more background in general about the family bike ride that I know you've been organizing for a while and has been pretty well attended.
This ties in. In the past, the committee has struggled to get funds for outreach. I don't know, things, tabling materials, like little bike lights in the fall when it's getting dark out, things like that. We've done all sorts of really silly things, like go to the police department and say, hey, can you buy these bike lights for us and hand them out with us? And usually that's been, yeah, sure. How do we buy the right lights? And, you know, it just becomes this really confusing thing of like, who's paying for what and how much can we do? So it usually winds up falling apart. I don't know, like this, going back, we never had a budget. I know the city, like you said, is a different place now. I don't think this has really been discussed in any real detail. So, for instance, tabling for Paul's event in the fall, is it possible to get updated tabling materials or, you know, a banner or
Snacks.
yeah, things to be like, hey, look, we're the school committee that you should come hang out with, not just a bunch of old people talking. So really, and especially with Paul's event, there's going to be a lot of children. Having something that drags parents over because their kids are like, ooh, snacks, that's really cool, but also, I don't know if a lot to do. So understanding maybe what our budget is and what our budget can be used for, if a budget even exists, would be helpful.
Yeah, we can definitely follow up on that.
Paul, for the minutes, did you have the details of said fall event, or can you pop them in the chat?
Well, I'm still applying for permits. So, but what I've applied for is Sunday, October 20th. In the AM. And it's a ride that would spend an hour at Assembly Square gathering at a gathering time where the kids are doing trick-or-treating from bike to bike. And so the tabling could also have candy. And if there's not a budget for that, I think that we could provide that we could donate that to the bicycle committee if that's legal. So there's a lot of mingling going on in that hour. I mean, there's also the parents are distracted by their kids, but there is a lot of talking, and so I don't know.
I think it's some other examples, like committee members have generally always volunteered at things like the illumination drive. It's either November or December, depending on how the calendar works out. And while we're not, you know, our role is not one of advocacy, something that has also happened is kind of keeping allied bike committees in other neighboring cities informed of things that are going on. And that has been a two-way street where we've also written letters in support of projects because somebody brought forward that Arlington, you know, in response to a collision, was looking to improve safety on the street, and lots of people biked. And so if we support that as a committee, that's something that's certainly allowed.
Yeah, and to the, obviously all the DOT projects, you know, it's like the
Yeah.
McGrath Highway, to make sure that there are enough people at the meetings and supporting it during the meeting, but also with letters then.
Okay, so we're kind of talking about goals, but we haven't like said, okay, we want to do this many outreach events a year, or I know that like signing up to be on the committee, it said you have to do a certain amount of outreach events a year, right? It was like a 10-2 or something, I can't remember.
Let's see, I think that's our expectation for attending this meeting in general, to make sure that people feel that this meeting specifically, and we don't have a like specific quota or whatever for outreach in general, but broadly speaking, we expect people to be involved in like something outside of the monthly meeting. Whether that's intermittent or regular, et cetera.
Okay.
It also seems to me like our goal, like there probably is two outreach goals of one, getting people on bikes and people excited and comfortable on bikes, and two, letting people know about all the work the city has done and saying, here is a bike lane and how you use it, and here's this cool turn thing you can do. That seems like two separate goals, right? Like bringing people in to biking, and then also those who might already be in or half our toe in, letting them know we've done this new cool thing, here it is, you should go use it.
There's a sort of third or maybe second and a half thing of making sure that we are understanding what the community finds troubling.
Totally.
A lot of what I found when we did a lot of tabling with bike breakfast on Beacon Street, back when Beacon Street was completely ripped up, was actually a lot of people complaining about Inman Square. And we actually reached out to, I forget his
About the new Inman Square?
No, the
old,
Inman
okay,
Square.
okay.
And we reached out to, I think it was Jeffrey Friedman, someone from Cambridge. And the project manager for something with Inman Square, and said, hey, people keep asking questions and we don't know what to do, but like, maybe you can come have some breakfast, and linking people with problems with the people who are running the project, or making sure they understand that screaming on Facebook doesn't help. You need to actually talk to people. Really can help kind of link that together. I know what I find troubling biking around Somerville. It's not what most people find troubling biking in Somerville, because I have my own biases and I'm biking with kids half the time. So it's very different from, a senior citizen who is terrified that they're going to fall off their bike, and, how do I bike around this crazy intersection? Like, totally different. I can't represent them, but I hope that I can reach out to them. So.
Maybe what would help define the goals would be to maybe define themes or areas that people were interested in, because I think it's gonna be most successful if we focus on themes and areas that people are passionate and interested in.
Such as the 5 E's.
Well, if that's the outreach goal, so be it, but more specifically, is it getting people on bikes? That's one theme. I think another theme is, directing people if they have particular issues, so educating them about how these projects work. Maybe that's something people are interested in. So I think it's to get to concrete goals, pick 3 themes, and then have an event or 2 around those, and your 6 new things.
So if we want to get people on bikes, there was a count done of cyclists, right? Is that how it was done, like a volunteer counting?
Sorry, I missed one.
Wasn't there like a volunteer counting?
Yes, we do that twice a year, just once a
Yeah.
year, yeah, and that's
Okay.
coming up, yeah.
So like, we could say we want to increase people on bikes by 10% or something, like something measurable. I don't know what.
Does
what-
the city already have that kind of?
Yeah, I'm
goal?
curious the metrics, what's already happened.
Like 20%.
Yes, there's climate forward, there is like summer vision, and they all have their own, like, it's more reduce car traffic and therefore, increase all other modes.
But if we've done this, was this not the first year that we did the counting. the
Yeah,
cycles.
yeah.
Oh, it was, or no?
No.
No, it's
That's
not,
what-
no,
Yeah,
it's not, yeah.
so I'd be curious like how kind of organically it's grown.
It has, and
Yeah.
we have a really great webpage now that has a lot of the graphics and the data. And you can see the trends over the years.
I think the interest is good, because it used to be, when I started, when everybody here will get the opportunity to be a volunteer counter. When I first signed up, you know, you could wait a few days and the whole street would pretty much still be empty. And now it's like, if you miss the email for a day, most of the prime sponsor are already taken by volunteers.
Also counting is probably. Yes, sometimes I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. There's too many movements going on.
Need to find the right corner.
Well, maybe if we look at what the trend has been over the years and then see how we can increase it or make a similar trend or increase it by just like a few percentages or something. That feels like palatable.
Right.
And I think looking at just total number of cyclists may not be the most useful. It may be helpful to break it down and say, how many children are biking to school? Or how many, it's hard to go age and gender. Those are very difficult to catch while someone's biking by, but trying to find maybe a location that people are biking to. How many people are biking to Union Square after work? Or like, so many people are biking now that it's hard to be like 10% increase, because that's like a lot of people. That'd be great, but that would be like a really ambitious goal. But looking at a school and saying, well, all the bike racks are full, so let's put another bike rack in. Is this new bike rack full? Or not just a scooter, but anything concrete like that.
There's something specifically around schools and kids though that I don't know how to do, but something I want to do is, there's a lot of kids that don't have bikes. They don't know how to ride bikes. I don't know that there's a curriculum to teach bike riding. Maybe there used to be.
Isn't there, and isn't there some?
Some schools do it in other.
There
parts.
definitely used to be. I don't know if that survived.
Yeah, so my kid didn't do it. I mean, fortunately, learned anyways, but like, I think a huge number of kids don't know how or don't have a bike or both. And there's, concepts of bike buses, or a lot of people that want to do this sort of thing. There's, active get yourself to school days and things like that. I just don't see a lot of any organizing around that or actively trying to promote kids and bikes.
That would be an amazing event, like the bike to school bus, the bike bus, or the bike to work bike bus. Like that often gets a lot of people who are kind of tentative about biking or don't know a safe route.
One problem with setting bike buses, it's usually a parent who's doing it. And as the parent who's always getting to school late, it's just really hard. Yeah, well, that we're all rushing up and the bell's rung, you're like, oh no, jump out of the bike.
Those are vaguely what I want to do. I would love to focus efforts, and I don't know, I think there's school people, I don't know how that all works out, but.
I think if you guys identify what you want to work on, then we can definitely provide information, because some of it is done in other departments and I'm not aware of all of them. But we can, provide you with information, what is done within the city and what the city knows, what is done outside. And then you can figure out where you fit in and where you can help. I just want to say, sorry to break into this conversation. It's 5 to 8. And we haven't done the city updates, which they will be uploaded in a presentation. I don't know if they're that helpful or this seems a really good discussion. So I wanted to throw that out. I can quickly go through the presentation now, or you can continue. On top of that, at 8:05, I have to leave and we're gonna turn down the Zoom. We're really trying to be mindful of everybody's time. So
Is there any big surprises or updates from the Sandra?
Or opportunities for feedback from us for upcoming things?
No, I think all of it, West Broadway is continuing. As I said, the presentation will be uploaded. You can look at it. And even if you have a quick individual question, you always know to reach us at transportation@somervillema.gov.
Cool. So given that, let's do the city update over email. People can give individual feedback to the transportation app. And as we're agenda setting for next month, always feel free to tell me if there's anything you can highlight and make sure that it stays on the agenda. So with that, maybe we'll spend just a couple more minutes wrapping this up. And we'll follow up, over email and on Fox to coordinate our other outreach. And then with that, I wanted to move back to folks on the Zoom, for a minute. I saw Kat's hand up.
Yeah, no, I'll be very quick, and I think it's probably a question of does the city do this? I know when I was growing up, one thing that was very impactful getting me into biking when I was probably like 6 or 7 is I think the local police force did like a bike safety day, right? And once a year they would take over a playground or a parking lot and essentially would run driver's ed, but for children bikers, of learning how to signal, learning how to pop, and like you would fail if you didn't do it right. But it was a really gave my parents confidence in my biking skills and got me confidence in biking skills. And the police don't have to run it. I think it's a very, but I missed the name of the speaker, but completely agree about helping, focusing especially on getting our children biking. And then I also, what we can do to get our senior citizens also biking is an area of interest to me as well. So that I would love to know what is already done, so we're not duplicating, or where we can help.
Also, just to add on to that, like anything that has been tried and either worked or didn't work.
I suspect that any ideas are good ideas now.
Okay.
I'm sure of some bad ones.
I think we tried a lot of stuff, and what didn't work 10 years ago might work now, and who knows?
But we can also get the right people in here. Like if the police education day is one, you know, we actually have a really great police force now. Like there's some really great lieutenants, and they do want to promote bicycling too. They were super excited when the community path opened. We have a bicycle police now. There are a few police officers that are on bikes. So, you know, I think we can get them in, and you can discuss in the committee and have it an agenda item ones to like really see what their capability is. And the same thing with schools or so. It's just like, you know, let us know and we'll connect you.
They have a siren on the bike. Are they gonna pull me over?
One thing that we should think about, when this is just coming up, the police are doing a national night out on August 6th. Well, if it doesn't rain. So it might be too soon to pull something together for any sort of outreach, but from the field.
Oh, it's fun. What is National Night Out?
They have music, bounce houses and more. So.
Oh, my.
It's, yeah, the police department's trying to reach out to the community and just,
Be like, we are the police and
we're cool
We're
police,
cool,
not
okay.
those guys.
National
So,
Night Out is a national
Yeah.
event, so like most police stations have this
Okay.
event.
so that might be a good opportunity, but it also is in like 5 days, so that
Yeah.
might be too soon to pull anything together. I don't know if I'm free, but.
Well, maybe if Maria starts like a spreadsheet of just the ongoing events, and then we can like all kind of fill in events that sound like places that we could be tabling at, because usually there are cutoff
Mhm.
dates for tabling, so
Mhm.
we'll want to get ahead of those, so maybe next year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That we can table at, and if anyone goes, they can let us know, like, who else was tabling, is it
Just
like
show
an
up with some
appropriate
cargo
place?
bikes.
Yeah,
There
Yeah.
might be a city calendar for the students, for the events.
I mean, there's the city calendar that will have those, yeah. And I also want to, for any updates, and that includes like events too. So I hope you all signed up for a mobility newsletter. There's a construction newsletter, there's a city newsletter. They're actually all very informative right now. And construction especially, I mean, that's basically what our city updates are mostly. So, you know, I would encourage everybody to sign up and you know, you would have seen the Somerville Night Out, I think, in the Somerville newsletter.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
forgot about it.
Would it be a helpful exercise for the next meeting to like workshop a list of like topics that the committee is interested in working on over the next year, and then maybe pull out some key ones? Is that,
Can we find a useful way to like collect ideas ahead of time, just like everyone throwing stuff into a box, so that way it's not all of us sitting here going, so this is a cool idea that I just thought of, like.
do we ever use like Miro board or
Yeah.
something that's like a collaborative tool? Because I mean, I just did this yesterday, I know, for work, but like we would throw ideas into it in real time, but I guess we could do it ahead of time and like just give everyone a month to like put different things, and then we can kind of group together to find those themes that Ted was talking about, and then we'll like go from there and make goals.
I think we have to double check. It's like there's this fine line of what constitutes a discussion. And I know, you know, it sounds like to all of us, oh, we just throw out something, but I would want to check with our clerk's office if that is already like, yeah, if that's,
It has to be like a form, if somebody submits
Yeah.
something, you know.
yeah, maybe
I
that.
was just
So,
thinking to avoid, or make the most use of the elements that we have.
yeah, no, I mean, I think we're all in favor of that. I just don't know what the best menu is to not, you know.
Just do a Google form that like,
Yeah.
you can see, and then.
Goes to a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And we can
You want to
fill
set,
it.
yeah, if you want to set that up. great.
Yeah, I think I know what those lines. It's reasonable. It's a good idea.
Mhm.
Awesome. I'm loving the energy. We'll follow up some logistics over email soon. For outreach and for submissions for next month. And overall, I'm loving the energy and love the ideas people are putting out there. So keep putting ideas out there. It sounds like a lot of people also interested in supporting. Any closing items before we adjourn? Hearing none, we will adjourn for the evening. Thanks, folks.
I'm on the newsletters.
Yes.
Thanks all. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
So many newsletters. I had no idea.
I know.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I thought I had them all.
Okay.
Maybe I don't have it.
I